Let's try it out. Let's have some of those more difficult conversations.
Yeah.
I think two things that are on a lot of people's minds are Proposal 3 and weed.
Yes.
I think we probably have time to talk about them both.
Oh, yeah.
Which one do you want to start with?
Let's go with the Brighton City ballot measure regarding marijuana dispensaries. And it's funny because I was on one side, and then I kind of shifted over. Then I was back on the one side, and now I'm on the side that most people probably would not expect. My initial take is that, my own personal view as a city resident, I think that if the city council were to allow 2 dispensaries within the city, that the tax revenue benefits from those 2 dispensaries would be worthwhile to offset, some of the negative consequences of increased traffic and all that. I think it's, totally a reasonable discussion that, it's not like, oh, my position is the only correct one. It's just my opinion. I think that there's a couple locations in the city that could accommodate a dispensary, that it would minimize the harms of increased traffic, but still capture those benefits. So that's my general take on marijuana in the city. The ballot measure comes along, and I'm immediately skeptical of it because, it's not what the city was considering several months ago. It's something that was written by outside interests. But when I saw the language that only is appearing on the ballot, it's made statements that, to me, did not force the city to go beyond what I want to see the city do. So I want to see 2 dispensaries, and it talks about no less than 2. And just in my own real estate contracts that I write up, no less than 2. If you have 2, that satisfies it. You can't force 3 or 4 or whatever. But then I was, talked to some city staff, and they're telling me, no, there's language behind that proposal that's, what's on the ballot is not the entirety of it all. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, I start to look at that, and okay, yeah, there is a lot of poison pills in there, a lot of things in there that it would be very harmful to the city if it passed and was implemented with all that background language being the controlling policy for it. And so now, yeah, I'm a no vote on the Brighton marijuana ballot measure.
Yeah, and I guess I can speak a little bit to this as well. And for everyone to know, this is my individual opinion. I do not represent the city of Brighton in anything that I'm saying right now. There's the concept that if the city had passed the proposal before, that we would have 2 dispensaries. We could pick the exact location where they would be, and we would start collecting a lot of tax revenue on it. That is not how it works. And if you open up to 2, you're going to get sued by everybody who doesn't get picked with 2. You'll ultimately, from the lawsuits alone, lose money. From my perspective, that's just paying the defense bills. I think that we would absolutely win, but you end up losing money on that front only. Overall, there's a lot of information that has been presented about, do you actually make money as a city after the lawsuits portions of it?
Right.
As a city, and then also the second part, which isn't as important to people within the city, but more generally speaking, as the state going to be losing money. Mm-hmm. And that's also the hat that I have with the Department of Health and Human Services for Livingston County, which I'm not going to get too much into that. But so far, it looks as though you're more likely than not going to lose some money. And that doesn't even account for some of the other issues that you'd have. I like the idea of having slow controlled growth through PUDs as time goes on, because we have this small town feel we're supposed to have. And that's the number one thing with our master plan is this small town feel. Having in thousands of more cars per day to benefit dispensaries is not good. Like, same reason we don't have a Chick-fil-A. Love the chicken. Okay, we cannot absorb the traffic. The the conversation about it has spiraled into almost a legalization argument.
Mm-hmm.
The same ease with which our residents obtain marijuana will not change,
Right.
No matter what.
No.
There is a bit of an argument in some stats that show if you live within 5 miles of it, there is an increase in youth usage. Whether or not that's true, I'd like to see the data go out a little bit longer before we take that on within the city. I'd rather, frankly, other cities figure it out and figure out how to perfect it. And we already have a drug use problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot bigger than people like to admit within the city of Brighton, particularly the high school and the middle school. I think we should be focusing on how to make that less.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that there's an answer. Maybe we could figure it out. I think it's the DARE program didn't work. Perhaps giving people other things to do instead. But usually what you should do is you should pay money for solutions or get paid to take on problems. You shouldn't pay money for problems. And as for the ballot itself, a minimum of 2 means that there's a minimum of 2 without a maximum at this time. Now, we do have Ordinance 601 and 602, and we're looking at how do we make this the best for what people believe it is. There's been a lot of information put out there that's frankly shocking by some of the people who run dispensaries.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the term misinformation. I can't stand it. Things out there, I'm just generally disturbed by how it's been presented and sold to people of the city. This is actually supposed to be more about you than me. But I figured I would talk about the marijuana issue because people are interested in it.
Yeah.
I hope for the city itself as one person that it does not pass.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with the headaches anymore of it. And everyone who voted no can celebrate with using marijuana because they all have it already. That's just my opinion on it, personal opinion.
And so, yeah, I don't want it to pass either. I would, in my ideal, I would like to see the city find a way to allow it, but I totally respect that if the city chooses not to, that's fine. I'm not the type that when, as a resident or a citizen, I have elected officials who have been empowered to make certain decisions. It's fine when they make a decision that I disagree with. Like it need not be that they have to do what I say. I'm one voice of many, and we have to be able to, as a society, accept when our voice is not what is going to be the one that's controlling the outcome. Sometimes, things don't go our way, and I think, we'd all be able to lower the temperature a little bit if we learned to be okay with that a little bit more often. I think, the COVID policies really are indicative of, that battle playing out where you had a lot of people on one side demanding certain things, a lot of people on the other side demanding certain things. I was the type who was requesting an outcome, but otherwise very forgiving as to whatever safety measures or whatever the governing body needed to make to provide that outcome. Specifically speaking to in-person schooling in like fall of 2020, I was the type that I wanted an in-person option, but if they're going to force the kids to wear masks, that's fine. Like I don't care. Just do whatever you think is right for the safety measures. I may disagree with those safety precautions, but I respect that it's you as a governing body to make those decisions. My opinion, though, is that you should at least have the outcome of allowing the children to be in school, because virtual education was a total failure, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if there wasn't marijuana dispensaries right down the highway, people weren't able to get a delivery to their house, I think we'd be having a much different conversation. I mean, is the ability to have access to it then worth the amount of money it's going to cost the city overall, or may cost the city overall? But that isn't the case that we're in. And I don't think our city is particularly designed to absorb that kind of traffic.
Right.
Especially with streetscape next year, then 96, and then the overlap with 23. Who knows? Maybe by that time they'll have figured out how to have a dispensary in a city where you actually make a bunch of money and it doesn't impact youth usage. Reevaluate it then. But once you let it in, you can't. You're on a path right now. And that's one of the things that council will try to do, or I hope council will try to do. There's no violation of the Open Meetings Act. Is that if it does come in, hopefully we can limit it to 2. And then if down the road it shows that, hey, there's no problem, more. Yeah. But you can't go backwards from 2. And right now,
once they're grandfathered in.
Now, I think an objective view of the evidence or what's been presented shows that it's just not the best thing for the city as a whole. Yeah. Regardless, I don't care if you want to call it, like I said, Chick-fil-A, call it ivermectin. I don't care. Whatever it is, the thing that it is, is people already have it, and I don't think it's going to help the city out.